Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner.
Tonight we're following up with the 13 Bloodlines Part 3 Deep Dive. Stick around. Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Today is November 22nd, 2024. Yes, it's that night where we get into the final, I believe, parts of the 13 Illuminated. Actually, they're not the Illuminated. They are the Zoroastrians. They are above the nobility. They are above the Illuminati. In part 1, Wednesday night, we spoke about the 3 tiers of secret families called the Zoroastrians, the Black Nobility, and the Illuminati. We then went into a deep dive on each of the House of Samaglia, House of Breakspear, or Magi and Lancelotti, the House of Orsini, and the House of Borgia, or Borgia. Thursday night, on part 2, we spoke about the House of Conti di Segni, or the House of Bourbon or Torlonia, the House of Chigi Albani della Rovere, the House of Colonna, or the Colombo crime family, the House of Farnese, the military bloodline, and the House of Medici. And I'm probably saying them all incorrectly, and I could care less. I really don't care about these people. And we're going to finish up with the rest of the families. How are you guys doing? Shout out to everybody watching the show. Hello, Amanda, Boots, and Edged, and HHH Era. Ira Codes, what is up, everybody? Thank you for being here tonight. Next on the stage is the House of Caetani or Gaetani di Aragona. Also, they host the Bourbon, Gotti, Gambino, and Trump families. What's up, 1776? The House of Caetani or Gaetani, according to a family tradition, was descendants of the Duke of Gaeta, Gaeta. Nevertheless, the family had no more great importance in Rome until the election of Benedetto Coetani to the papacy of Pope Boniface VIII in 1294, when they at once became the most notable family in the city at that time. So they're an old family. Donald Trump is now threatening to start a global war, beginning with Iran, in defense of his bosses of the black nobility. Trump was Roman Catholic Jesuit, educated at Fordham, Fordham, and he is friends with the Roman Gaetanus, a papal nobility. The Gaetanus family is who we are talking about. The Trumps can be seen with the Bourbon Two Sicilies and Colonnas, also Italian papal nobility and royalty. Trump also has deep connections with the Italian mafia. Trump, quote, killing Soleimani is staged for World War propaganda. Either Soleimani is still alive or more than likely previously died in a way that was unrelated to Trump killing Soleimani, while Trump is actually bombing civilians in Iraq. If Trump attempts to start a world war with Iran, which will cause Russia and then China to be involved, then he needs to be executed. All the nation's leaders work together under Rome, and they engineer wars as a disguise for depopulating society. Donald Trump's ex-wife, Ivana Trump, even dated Prince Rofredo Gaetani di Aragona. Members of the Gaetani crime family include the vineyard owner and wizard of wine, Galasio Gaetani di Aragona, Levatelli, Don Fernando Gaetani del Aquila di Aragona, and Don Bonifacio Gaetani del Aquila di Aragona. These family nobles and their stupid names. They really love their names too. When you bash them and make fun of their names, they get pissed. Don Rofrido Gaetani di Aragona di Lorenza Levatelli apparently faked his death and has been hiding out in Venice and may be in Switzerland today. Now, the Gaetani crime family, or the Gaetani del Aquila di Aragona family, is a top bloodline of the black nobility and imperial landowners. The Spanish word Aragona means agriculture and land. The Gaetani family owned the Gambino crime syndicate, which is still covertly managed by the Gotti family today. The Gaetani family take their name from Gaeta, Italy, which was settled by the tribe of Gaeta. The name Gotti means Goth. I wonder if they listened to The Cure. The Goths and Gaeta are two similar but different Scythian tribes that have intermixed and had similar migrations. The Goths settled in L'Aquila, Italy, where the Gaetani family ruled, as well as in Gaeta. There is still Gothic architecture in both of these towns. Salvatore di Aquila was a boss of what later became the Gambino crime family, just as the Gaetani family ruled in L'Aquila, Italy. The name Gambino and Campania derive from the Greek word campi, which means crooked. In Italy, it has also come to mean leg. Crooked leg. This is where the terms bootleggers and crooks come from. The word gambling is also etymologically connected with the name Gambino. Gambling, Gambino. The Italian mafia run most of the casinos in the United States and launder their profits through them. Donald Trump used the Genovese and Gambino-owned S&A Concrete Company to build his condos in Manhattan. Donald Trump used Roy Cohn as his attorney, who also worked for the former Genovese boss, Tony Salerno, and former Gambino boss, John Gotti. Donald Trump purchased property from the mafia hitman Salvatore Testa to build his casino in Atlantic City. Atlantic City has been fully controlled by the Italian mafia since the Atlantic City Conference in 1929. Donald Trump is a frontman for the five families of New York City, and they are controlled by the Italian nobility. Donald Trump's ex-wife Ivana Trump even dated Prince Raffaello Gaetani di Aragona. Members of the Gaetani crime family include the vineyard owner and wizard of wine, Galasio Gaetani di Aragona Levatelli. Don Fernandino Gaetani del Aquila di Aragona and Don Bonifacio Gaetani del Aquila di Aragona. Don Rofrido Gaetani di Aragona di Lorenzana, Levatelli faked his death, has been hiding out in Italy, and may be in Geneva, Switzerland today. So that's the House of Gaetani, or Gaetani di Aragona, who managed the Bourbons, Gotti, Gambino, and the Trump Five. House of Doria Pamphilj Landi is the next in line. I think you call it Pamphilj. It's Pamphiljj. Pamphilj. And it is Doria Pamphilj Landi. The House of Pamphil, often with the final long I orthography, Pamphilj, was one of the papal families deeply entrenched in Catholic Church, Roman, and Italian politics in the 16th and 17th centuries. Before they were known for their papal reign, the Pamphilj family hailed from Gubbia in Umbria. Gubbia in Umbria, a region in central Italy. They were descendants of Amanzio Pamphilj, a man who arrived in Italy in the 9th century as a follower of Charlemagne. They asserted that their family coat of arms, which is a dove with an olive branch in its beak, as well as 3 fleurs de lis, was actually granted from Charlemagne himself. So what? The Pamphilj family ascent to respectable nobility really began with Antonio Pamphilj, or Pamphili. There's a J at the end of it, but they change it to an I guess. Who was appointed as the fiscal procurator for the Papal States by Pope Sixtus IV della Rovere. This position of trust, respect, and significant income was their first real step up the hierarchy of power. Moreover, Antonio Pamphili, or Pamphilj, married a rich Roman noblewoman, which furthered the family's rise to nobility. Although the Pamphilj family continued a long pattern of marrying into powerful members of the aristocracy. They did not achieve world fame and power until one of their very own succeeded the papal throne. Pope Innocent X, upon the death of Urban VIII, the conclave gathered to choose a pope. For some days after Urban VIII's death, the situation in Rome was extremely critical. Crime increased alarmingly within the streets, as always, when the papal throne was unoccupied. During this time, a rivalry between brewing between the Spanish and the French factions who could not agree on a successor. It was not until a month later that both parties reached a compromise for Giambattista Pamphili, who was a previous cardinal under Urban VIII. By then, the new pope, renamed to Innocent X, was 70 years old. Giambattista Pamphili was born in Rome on May of 1574. As a young man, he entered the service of the church, first as an officer in the papal army and later as a diplomat. Having studied law at the Jesuit Collegio Romano, he worked as an auditor before he was selected as an ambassador to Naples. Under the pontificate of Urban VIII, Pamphili was appointed to become a priest, then bishop, and later cardinal. Although he was generally recognized as an upright man of justice, Innocent also had the reputation for being cross-grained and stern during his pontificate. This is how he is portrayed as being suspicious, opposing, and morose, apparently, in some images and paintings of him. During his career as pope, the influence of the papacy started to wane in European politics. Any attempt at restoring the papal finances, which had become severely depleted at the time of Urban VIII's pontificate, was bound to fail. During times of food shortages, grain prices soared, so the Pope started a new penny tax on salt and meat. There were often protests in front of his commissioned monuments, like the Four Rivers Fountain in his Piazza Navona, which were accompanied with pasquinades, satirical rhymes. The common people adamantly stated that they would rather spend their tax money on bread than on obelisks and fountainheads. They're so good to their people, aren't they? Yeah, they put obelisks in there. Egyptian obelisks, saying they worship Christ. Sure. Furthermore, the Pope's relationships with his relatives were questionable, for he was guilty of nepotism, and much of his pontificate was dominated by his greedy sister-in-law, Olympia Maldaccini. La Papeso, the she-pope, Olympia Maldaccini married young to a rich family, but at the early death of her baby and husband, was left a wealthy widow at the age of 21. At this point, she was not really educated or powerful, but very intelligent and intent on escaping her home in Viterbese. In order to escape, she needed political power and used the most common methods of the time, gaining status in the church or marrying into a rich family. Olympia pursued both tracks and in 1612 married Pamphili, the elder brother of the future Pope Innocent X, or Magnusson. Their marriage was based upon his need for her wealth and her desire for his power, a win-win. Combining that wealth and power, she gained influence over the power of Pope Innocent X by supporting him financially, and in the early years of his diplomatic career. The cardinals that finally elected Innocent knew this and warned the new pope not to let his sister-in-law have too much control. This, however, did not lessen Olympia's influence. A few examples of Olympia's excessive power are as follows. She made many of the decisions in the construction of Palazzo Pamphili, arranged marriages to secure her family and political power, and plotted to have her son Camillo in command of the papal armies. She was, however, thwarted in this scheme, and instead of a general, Camillo Pamphili was made into the cardinal nephew. He was much loved in this position, but grew tired of it when he realized he had very little influence over Pope Innocent X in comparison to his mother, Olympia. In addition to the dissatisfaction, he fell in love with Olympia Aldo Brandini, a wealthy widow of Paolo Borghese. Thus, Camillo left both the cardinalate and his uncle Innocent to the mercy of Olympia. Married into the Aldo Brandini family. They're one of the 13. By about 1647, Olympia was the only person close to the temperamental pope who could advise him, was Magnusson. Anyone who wanted anything from the pope would first have to turn to Olympia, meaning they would first have to pay her off. She loved bribes and monetary gain and was known as de nascente ingordigia, or disgustingly greedy. The Pope rarely did anything without first asking Olympia. Aside from her company, the Pope went his final years alone. A lot of the misfortunate things that Pope Innocent did were blamed on Olympia. The mark of the Italians' hatred for her is seen long after her reign. For example, Olympia was a common pseudonym for prostitutes for hundreds of years. As a lasting tribute, Donna Olympia was remembered through ghost stories. In one of the tales, she can be found under the full moon in a black carriage pulled by a black horse with flaming eyes as she rides from the Ponta Sista to Piazza Navona and finally into the gates of Palazzo Pamphili. While the Pamphili family used both the arrangement of strategic marriages as well as the church in their attempts to improve their social status in Rome, they also asserted their prominence through the real estate market and development of their properties. Although the Pamphili family had previously resided in an aristocratic neighborhood in Gubbio, their old status meant nothing in Rome, and they had to start from scratch. This is why Antonio Pamphili wanted to establish an impressive family house in a prominent area of Rome. This ambition eventually led to the purchase of property in the neighborhood of Rione Perione in 1470, which then stretched from the southern part of what is now Piazza Navona to Campo di Fiori, period. Over the years, he was able to expand his property by purchasing surrounding houses and incorporating them into the Pamphili estate. The generations following Antonio continued his campaign to expand the Pamphili property, a trend that reflected the family's continual attempts to assert their importance in a central area of Rome. At that time, Rione Parlone was a fairly prestige and heavily populated neighborhood, as its popularity increased even more after Sixtus IV's campaign to improve the streets of Rome. The Pamphili's property ambitions were also aided by the decision of Julius III to assign dell'Anemia and Palazzo Pasquina, although part of the Pamphili property had to be torn down in order to achieve the Pope's goal. They were heavily compensated and benefited significantly from the situation. They received 2 new houses in return for the damages and were then able to expand up to Palazzo Navona, the neighborhood in which many of the most popular families of the time resided. However, this meant that to live up to the status and grandness of the families that surrounded them, the Pamphili needed to construct a more elaborate palazzo. This sparked an intense campaign by the Pamphili to renovate their class casa, especially after the Giambattista was elected into the Sacred College and awarded the cardinal's hat in 1630. With the trend of building an elaborate palace after reaching the status of cardinal having been established as the Maffeo Barberini, there was more pressure to build a more socially acceptable family residence. In 1636, Giambattista commissioned Pepperelli to go about the task of collectively joining the Pamphili properties into one coherent structure. The Palazzo was built from 1638 to 1636 to 38 and was constructed in order to live up to the contemporary social code that regulated how best to set up a proper family palazzo, spelled out in the popular etiquette book. Now, by the time the Giambattista became Pope Innocent X, 6 years after the palazzo was finished, it was again thought to be inadequate considering the Pamphili's new elevated status. The second campaign eventually led to the renovations that stripped the current structure evident in Piazza Navona today. The Pamphili had established themselves in the central area of Rome for over 150 years by the time Giambattista became pope, having successfully implanted their family into the social hierarchy of Rome. Eventually, the male line of the Pamphili died out and only continued on through Camillo's daughter, Anna Pamphili. Anna married into the Sinoisi family of the Doria Landi. During his lifetime, Camillo Pamphili had been a huge supporter and commissioner of the arts and had managed to acquire a very impressive art collection. This collection cannot be separated from Camillo's estate and is currently maintained by the Doria Landi in Palazzo Doria Pamphili. The Pamphili family's property campaign is still evident in Rome to this very day due to their influential presence and history in Piazza Navona, as well as their expansive and influential art collection. The house of Doria Pamphili, or Pamphilj, it's one of them, Landi, also simply called Doria Pamphili, was a princely Roman family in Genoese extraction. Legend has it that the origins of the Doria family date from the early 11th century, but the authentic pedigree is traced to Ansaldo di Oria, consul of Genoa, in the 12th century. The descent of the several Doria family lines in Genoa is well known and is described in Natali Battagliona's 19th century genealogical study of old Genoa's families. Look, this isn't my strength, reading Italian names. I'm just going to say, God help me. The Doria Pamphili Landi princely family was a sub-branch of the Doria di Oniglia branch in 1291. Two Doria brothers bought the lordship of Onaglia, which was co-owned by their descendants until the late 15th century. Admiral Andrea Doria was descended from the Doria di Onaglia Genoese soldier Aton Doria, also called Antonio Doria, who fought for the French at the Battle of the Crécy. Now, there are famous members of this family include Andrea Doria and Cardinal Giovanni Battista Pamphili, who rose to the papacy as Pope Innocent X, like we talked about. The Marquisate of Sevilla's and the County of Cavallemont were conferred to the family in 1576. The Duchy of Terci in 1594, the Principality of Avilia in 1607, the Duchy of Avigliano in 1613, and the Principality of Meldola in 1671. In 1760, the title of Reichsfürst, or Prince of the Holy Roman Empire, was added and attached to the lordship of Torriglia and the Marquisate of Borgo San Stefano, together with the qualification of Hochgenborn. It sounds like they went German. That same year, the Dorias inherited the fiefs and titles of the House of Pamphili, of Gubbio, patricians of Rome, and princes of San Martino and Volmontone. The name then becomes Doria Pamphili, or Pamphilj. I guess the J is an I. They had already incorporated by marriage the wealthy inheritance of the Landi family. Prince Filippo Andrea the Sixth, Daria Pamphili, a staunch anti-fascist, in 1944 became the first mayor of Rome following its liberation by the Allies. His father had been a senator of the newborn kingdom in Italy of 1870. Princess Orietta Doria Pamphili, officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire in 1922. And the 19th Princess of Melfi, Gandhi of Spain, first class, 8th Princess of the Holy Roman Empire, 8th Princess of Santo Stefano di Oviedo and Torriglia, Princess of Val di Taro, Volmontone, and San Martino al Camino, Semino, Roman princess. Also the 11th Duchess of Avigliano, Duchess of Montalanico, the 15th Marchioness of Carriga, Croce in Val Trebia, Otone, Grandonoa, Vargo, Cremonti, Cabela, and Fontana. These, oh my God, these are just all names and names and names and names, and I'm done with that. After the reforms of the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s, Princess Orietta and her husband, both Catholics, worked to promote better relations between faiths. In 2000, Queen Elizabeth II visited Rome and the Anglican Center, which is housed in the Palazzo Doria Pamphili. So I couldn't find anything about this family other than their history, but every single family that's in here, they have some history of putting a pope in. And I'm trying to figure out all of this stuff, trying to put it together and make it make sense. And it seems like whoever put this list together, what they're trying to say is these families, or these 13 bloodline families, have all put a pope in the Catholic Church and have made a lot of money by doing so. And trying to find information on these families is really difficult. Finding their history, their coat of arms, how much they're worth, their wealth, etc. This is the best I could get within a few weeks of research, and I'm just going to continue adding on to this as I stumble across more information about these 13 bloodline families whom have put a pope into office. So I don't understand the relationship, meaning I don't know if these 13 bloodlines are in fact the ones that are the Zoroastrians that control the world. But this is the only way I'm going to be able to get this out there, is by telling you what I know about them and try to figure that out, especially with Trump and how he is part of one of those families. He's not a Zoroastrian, but he's definitely working for them. Next is the House of Este, E-S-T-E. The House of Este was an Italian princely family linked with several contemporary royal dynasties, including the House of Habsburg and the British royal family. The elder branch of the House of Este, known as the younger House of Welf, W-E-L-F, included Duke of Bavaria and Brunswick-Lunenburg, and produced Britain's Hanoverian monarchs, as well as one emperor of Russia, Ivan VI, and one Holy Roman Emperor, Otto IV. The younger branch of the House of Este included rulers of Ferrara and of Modena and Reggio. D'Este, Duke of Ferrara, was one of the most significant patrons of the arts in the late 15th and early 16th century in Italy, when Ferrara grew into a cultural center renowned especially for music. Ercole's daughter Beatrice married Leonardo da Vinci's chief patron, Ludovico Sforza. Duke of Milan, the son of Francesco I Sforza, a founding member of René of Anjou's Order of the Crescent. Another daughter, Isabella, married Francesco Gonzaga, Marquis of Mantua. Ercole I's successor was his son Alfonso d'Este III, and husband of notorious Lucrezia Borgia, House of Borgia. So that's where they come in. So Borgia and Este are friends. Daughter of Pope Alexander VI, sister to Cesare Borgia. The legitimate line ended in 1597 with Ercole I, Ursoli the First. I think it's Ursoli. It's E-R-C-O-L-E. To me, Ercole. Ursoli the First. As his heir, his first cousin, Caesar d'Este, was recognized by Emperor Rudolf II, who maintained the occult-oriented court at Prague, which attracted the sorcerer John Dee, leading to the founding of the Rosicrucian movement. The last Duke, Ursoli III d'Este, Duke of Modena, was deposed in 1796 by the French. Ursoli III was the son of Duke Francesco III d'Este, Duke of Modena, and Charlotte Aglaia of Orleans, daughter of Philippe II d'Orleans, a daughter of Chevalier Michael Ramsay, and Francois Marie de Bourbon, they got the Bourbons in there, the daughter of Madame de Montespan, who was accused of performing the Black Mass. Of course she did. God help me. What's up, Frank? What's up, Claire? Okay. Ursoli III's brother, Francesco d'Este, Duke of Modena, also a Knight of the Order of the Golden Fleece. Francesco I d'Este married Maria Caterina Farnese. Oh, they're in the Farneses, and their son, Alfonso IV d'Este. Duke of Modena married Laura Martinazzi, and were the parents of Mary of Modena, the wife of James II of England. Their son, James Francis Edward Stuart, a simple name, known as the Old Pretender, the Old Pretender, was the father of Jacobite pretenders Charles Edward Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie, the Young Pretender, and his brother Henry Benedict Stuart, Cardinal Duke of New York. Cardinal Duke of York. The family of their mother, Maria Clementina Sobieska, was related to Jacob Frank. Ursuli III, two duchies became the Cispadane Republic, which 1 year later was merged into the Cisalpine Republic, and then into the Napoleonic Kingdom of Italy. Ursuli was compensated in 1801 with the small principality of Brescia in southwestern Germany, whose previous rulers, the Habsburgs, ceded it to him in anticipation of his eventual return to the Habsburgs. Since Ursuli's daughter, Maria Beatrice Ricciardo di Este, was married to a cadet Habsburg, Archduke Ferdinand of Austria-Este, the son of Francis I, Holy Roman Emperor, Grand Master of the Order of the Golden Fleece, and Empress Maria Theresa, who supported Jacob Frank. Ferdinand's brother, Emperor Joseph II, also Grand Master of the Order of the Golden Fleece, had an affair with Jacob's daughter Eva. Oops. Their brother, Archduke Maximilian Francis, was a Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights and purported Grand Master of the Priory of Sion. Ursuli died in 1803, and Brisgau passed to his daughter and her husband, who in 1806 lost it during the Napoleonic reorganization of the Western territories of the defunct Holy Roman Empire to the enlarged and elevated Grand Duchy of Baden. The House of Este, princely family of Lombard origin, who played a great played a great part in the history of medieval and Renaissance Italy. The family first came to the front in the wars between the Welfs and the Ghibellines during the 13th century. As leaders of the Welfs, Estensi princes received at different times Ferrara, Modena, Reggio, and other fiefs and territories. Fiefs is spelled F-I-E-F-S. Just FYI. Members of the family ruled in Ferrara from the 13th through the 16th century, and in Modena and Reggio from the later Middle Ages to the end of the 18th century. The Estensi were a branch of the great 10th century dynasty of the Obertenghi, which held power and wealth in Lunigiana, Genoa, and Milan, and which also gave rise to the feudal houses of Malaspina and Pallavicini, and the Margraves of Massa and Parodi. Subsequently, after various vicissitudes, the members of the Obertenghi dynasty removed to the lands of the Venetians, where they had estates of Este, Monacelis, Rovingo, and Friuli. The Estensi took their name from the township of the Castle of Este, which is 17 miles southwest of Padua, and the true founder of the family was Margrave Alberta Azzo II. From his son, Welf the fourth Duke of Bavaria, there began a related branch that gave origin to the Dukes of Bavaria, Brunswick, and Lunenburg, as well as the electors of Hanover. Another son, Ugo, tried without success to establish in France, while a third son, Folco I, died, became second in line in the House of Este. Neither he nor his successor, Obizo, however, achieved any great distinction beyond the offices and titles that fell naturally to the upper feudal families. but it was during the lifetime of Obizo I that the Estensi first acquired political importance in Ferrara, although the marriage of his son Azo V, who predeceased him, to the heiress of one of the two great and rival families of Ferrara. Obizo was succeeded by his grandson Azo VI, who acquired considerate authority in the city, though his premature death in 1212 left the family temporarily weakened. Not until 1240 did a descendant, Azo VII, return to power in the city in alliance with the Welf League formed by Pope Gregory IX. This marked the true beginning of the Este rule in Ferrara. So apparently they must have somehow got a pope in. Now, in 1264, Azo's heir, Obizo II, was created perpetual lord by the people of Ferrara under the pressure of the Welf strength. The pope, lawful lord, and the Ferrarese territory at first did not oppose this action, but afterward began in contest the Estensi government. Obizo II's power was growing, however, and he had himself chosen lord of Modena in 1288, and of Reggio in 1289. In the 14th century, the House of Este went through difficult, stormy periods, not only because of the controversies and the papacy, but also because the domestic dissensions, sometimes very hazardous. The house succeeded, nevertheless, in strengthening its position, and under Niccolo II, called the Lame, he's called the Lame, there was built the famous Este Castle, the work of the architect Bartolino da Navarra, which became a symbol of the power of the city of Ferrara and a sure defense against external dangers. To the brothers and successor of Niccolo II, Alberto V, is due the erection of the University of Ferrara, destined for lasting fame. It was obtained by Pope Boniface IX as a concession in 1391. The reign of Nicola III, son of, we're talking about the Este family, by the way, Este, E-S-T-E, son of Alberta, marked the strengthening of Estensi domination in Ferrara and the introduction of Estensi influence generally in Italian politics. After having defeated an attempt by the Paduans to achieve hegemony in Ferrara, the Estensi Duke became intermediary in the political and military contests in the Italian states and extended his dominions. Personally, Niccolo was known for his sensuality. A Ferrarese saying runs on both sides of the river Po, they are all Niccolo's sons, unquote. He had his son, Ugo. You love your kids so much. What do you want to name your son? I was thinking Charles, and I was thinking Ugo. All right. Ugo it is. He had his son, Ugo, and his young second wife, Parasina, Malatesta, beheaded because they were found guilty of adultery together. Well, bye, Ugo. But he devoted himself to the exterior manifestations of a religious faith, going on a pilgrimage to the Holy Sepulchre and to Vienna's St. Anthony, and playing host to the Ecumenical Council in 1438 that represented a fruitless attempt to bring together again the Western and Eastern churches. He even seems to have come close to obtaining a succession of the Estensi heir to the Milanese states, but he died suddenly, perhaps poisoned, in 1441. Whereas Niccolo III raised the Estensi state to a high position in Italian politics in spite of its territorial and financial limits, his natural son and chosen successor, Leonello, gave Ferrara considerable distinction in the fields of art and culture. Leonello had been educated by the humanist Gorina Ferranese, called by Ferrara by his father, and the period of his reign was one in which Ferrara represented a lively center of culture and humanism filled with painters and scholars. Now, Leonello's brother and successor, Borso, notwithstanding some military failures, not only maintained his estate and increased his aesthetic and cultural prestige, but also received from the Holy Roman Empire Frederick III the title of Duke of Modena and Reggio, and from Pope Paul II the title of Duke of Ferrara. So that got them pretty high up. The long rule of Leonello's and Borso's half-brother Ercole I marked one of the most important periods for the history of the House of Este and of Ferrara. He succeeded in obtaining considerable political support with his marriage to Leonora, the daughter of the King of Naples. These were troubled times, however. Ercole had to defeat the attempt of a nephew, Niccolo, son of Leonello, to usurp the throne. And then he had to face the hostile coalition of Venice and Pope Sixtus IV, which brought war nearly to the walls of the city of Ferrara. The subsequent peace of Bagnola, however, though not entirely satisfactory, did free Ferrara from immediate dangers. Ercole's crucial problem became one of consolidating his own political positions by means of marriage that would bind him to the principal Italian powers. Of his 3 daughters, Lucrezia was married to Annabella Bentivoglio of Bologna, Isabella to Francesco Gonzaga of Mantua, and Beatrice to Ludovico Sforza of Milan. Ercole's eldest son, Alfonso, was married first to Anna Sforza of Milan and then to the famous Lucrezia Borgia, the House of Borgia, the daughter of Pope Alexander VI. In spite of these difficult affairs of state, Ercole was able to continue his dynasty's patronage of the arts, taking the poet Matteo Boiardo as his minister, extended his favor to the poet Ludovico Ariosto, espousing the theater and musical arts and enlarging and beautifying Ferrara to such an extent as to make it one of the first cities of Europe. Now, Ercole's son, Alfonso I, rough and rude when he was young, proved wise and sure of himself once he had taken the reins of government. First, he failed a plot of a step-brother, Giulio, and another brother, Ferrante, against him and sentenced them to perpetual imprisonment. Then his attention was completely attracted by the war against Venice, in which his skill in mechanics and artillery design was proved. He was victorious in the naval battle of Policella and won back the Policine and Rovigo, which was lost by Ercole I. At the same time, however, papal ambitions of territorial expansion became threatening by consistent adherence to the French interest in Italy. Alfonso came into collusion with Pope Julius II and was deprived of Modena and Reggio and was excommunicated. The Medici popes, Leo X and Clement VII, were both determined on the destruction of the Estensi, but the first mentioned pope was frustrated by death, the second by political weakness, and Alfonso was able to recover Reggio in 1523 and Modena in 1527. He died in 1534. His succession was assured not only by his legitimate children, but also by the issue of his lover, Laura Eustochia Dianti, from whom derived the future dukes of Modena and Reggio. Good God. During the reign of Alfonso's son and successor Ercole II, the military events proved less interesting than the personal ones. Ercole married Renée, daughter of King Louis XII of France, and in Ferrara she came to embrace the Lutheran religion, becoming its ardent defender and establishing at her court a meeting place for the most famous heretics and liberal thinkers of the day. Ercole, who was the Pope's vicar in Ferrara, tried restraining her, even to the point of temporary imprisonment, but to no avail. Next to rule was his firstborn, Alfonso II, the fifth and last Duke of Ferrara. He also tried vainly to be elected King of Poland and to organize a crusade against the Turks. More important for the dynasty, however, was the fact that though Alfonso II had 3 marriages, he had no children, and Pope Pius V in 1567 expressly forbade having illegitimate children rule in ecclesiastical lands. Alfonso was so disappointed and discouraged that he let the conditions of his state decay. At his death, he bequeathed the duchy to his cousin Cesare, but Pope Clement VII refused to recognize the settlement, declaring Cesare illegitimate. In 1598, direct papal rule was established in Ferrara. The main branch of the Este family had come to an end. Cesare kept Modena and Reggio, but with him the Estensi ceased to play so important a part in Italian politics, and the court was culturally inferior to its brilliant predecessors. Among the several Modenese dukes who followed the 17th century, Francesco I, who came to the throne during the stormy period of the 30 Years' War, was perhaps the most important. His people were able to survive the famous plague of 1630. In the wars, he was first allied to Spain, then to France, whose alliance he thought would best situation his claims to Ferrara. Later on, he attempted reconciliation with Spain, but ironically, it was on the field of battle fighting the Spaniards that he died of malaria. He was a man with enormous aspirations, and though inclined toward treachery in politics, he gave art his patronage, favoring men of letters and collecting works of art. There is an extraordinary portrait of him by Diego Velázquez and a beautiful bust by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. Among his successors, the most deserving to be remembered is Rinaldo I, whose marriage to Charlotte Felicitas of Brunswick-Lunenburg reunited the long-separated branches of the House of Este. Throughout his reign, he engaged in imperial politics. His son, Francesco III, known as the Libertine, received the governorship of Lombardy from Empress Maria Theresa of Austria. Ercole III, gentle and affordable, abandoned Modena in 1796 when the revolutionary French army invaded it. After the Napoleonic Wars, Duke Francesco IV, son of Maria Beatrice d'Este, the only surviving daughter of Ercole III, and of Archduke Ferdinand of Habsburg-Lorraine, son of Maria Theresa, came back to Modena. He founded the Austro-Este line in Modena, which, however, ended with his son Francesco V when Modena revolted in order to join Sardinia, Piedmont, and then Italy. Childless, Francesco V selected as his universal heir Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austrian throne, who was murdered at Sarajevo in 1914, was succeeded by Charles I of Austria. Archduke Robert, his second son, succeeded him. Prince Lorenz of Belgium became the rightful holder of the surname and heraldic bearings of the Estensi in 1996 upon Robert's death. That's the House of Este. I can't find anything more on them. Next is the House of Aldobrandini, one of the 13 supposed bloodlines of the Zoroastrians. The House of Aldobrandini is an Italian noble family originally from Florence, where in the Middle Ages they held the most important municipal offices. Now the Aldobrandini are resident in Rome with close ties to the Vatican. Their Roman fortunes were made when Ippolito Aldobrandini became pope under the name Pope Clement VIII. He arranged the marriage that linked the Aldobrandini with the Roman family of Pamphili. They were also linked to marriage alliances with Farnese, the Duke of Parma, and Aldobrandini, and Borghese. Oh, Borghese, huh? All right. Since Olympia Aldobrandini married Paolo Borghese. Now, the family also lends its name to the Palazzo Aldobrandini on the Quirinal Hill. The Aldobrandini family, having reached the height of its power, when Ippolito Aldobrandini became Pope Clement VIII, began the building of the villa. In 1600, Clement VIII acquired the Orti Vitelli on the Quirinal Hill, and in 1601 donated the property to his cardinal nephew Pietro Aldobrandini. The old buildings of the Vitelli family were demolished and construction began on the new villa and adjacent garden. The villa was never the family seat, as the Aldobrandini family owned even more splendid residences elsewhere in Rome. The villa on the Quirinal Hill served essentially for ceremonial functions. More famous was the Villa Aldobrandini in Frascati, also known as Belvedere, for its charming location overlooking the whole valley up to Rome. It was rebuilt on the order of Cardinal Pietro Aldobrandini over a pre-existing edifice built by the Vatican prelate Alessandro Ruffini in 1550. The villa, aligned with the cathedral down its axial avenue that is continued through the town of Viale Catone, was rebuilt in the current form of Giacomo della Porta, from 1598 to 1602, and then completed by Carlo Maderno, and Giovanni Fontana. Oh, Tony Fontana. The villa has an imposing 17th century facade and some other interesting architectural and environmental features, such as the double gallery order on the rear facade, the spiral-shaped flights, the large exedra of the water theater, and the magnificent park. Inside there are paintings of Mannerist and Baroque. I think it's Baroque. Artists such as Zuccari Brothers, Cavalier di Arpino, and Domenichino. Outside, there is a monumental gate by Carlo Francesco Bizzoccheri, early 18th century. The Doria, Pamphili, Landi, and Aldobrandini families have become united through marriage and descent under the simplified surname Doria Pamphili, or Pamphilj. I'm telling you, there's a J at the end of it. Which is now extinct since the death of Princess Orietta Doria Pamphili in 2000. So apparently that family is extinct as of the year 2000. The Aldobrandini family palazzo and its collections of work of arts and furnishing is now the Doria Pamphili Gallery in Rome. The family name lives on, however, via a branch of the Borghese family, descendant from the marriage of Olympia Aldobrandini with Prince Paolo Borghese in the 17th century. This line is descended from Don Camillo Borghese, Prince Aldobrandini, a leading member of the soi disant black nobility, who in turn was the younger brother of the then Prince Borghese and head of that family. Princess Olympia Anna Aldobrandini, also a non-lineal descendant of Napoleon on her mother's side, married into the Rothschild family. The head of the family today is Prince Camillo Aldobrandini, whose heir is Don Clement Aldobrandini, as of 1982. The Aldobrandini families are an influential Roman bloodline and top members of the satanic death cult known as the Ninth Circle. Now we get it. You can totally tell when I'm reading Wikipedia, and then when I get right into the shit. They are involved with the Vatican and banking. The Aldobrandini family produced one pope and several cardinals for the Roman Catholic Church. The name Aldobrandini derives from the Arabic word Aldebaran, which means the follower. The Aldobrandini clan came into Europe during the Moorish invasion and have an Arabic and Basque ancestry. Ignatius Loyola, who was a co-founder of the Jesuits and its first superior general, was a Basque descent, Basque descent, B-A-S-Q-U-E, Basque descent, and likely related to this family. They follow after the Massimo family and have intermarried with the Massimo Lancelotti branch. Wow. The Massimo's Vatican came first, and the Jesuits followed just after the Aldebaran means the follower. Okay. The Italian nobility uses its Jesuit universities to recruit Roman spies and agents, and the Aldobrandini family appear to have a portion of authority over the Society of Jesus. There are 9 circle cults within most Jesuit universities. I believe the 9th Circle headquarters is located at Loyola University, New Orleans, with President Kevin Wiles, S.J., at its head. The New Age cult leader named Paul Romano serves the Aldobrandinis, and he is secretly sadistic. Pope Clement VIII, Ippolito Aldobrandini, issued the Congratio de Auxiliis as a peace agreement between the Jesuits and Dominicans. Renuncio Farnese married between the Jesuits and Dominicans and married Margarita Aldobrandini, which got the Farneses together with them. And it was the Farnese family that officially authorized the Jesuits. The Aldobrandini family have ownership over the De Cavalcanti crime family of New Jersey, Palermo family, as the acting bosses. Both the Aldobrandini family and Cavalcanti family were originally Florentine nobility. Caval like a cave. Even their mafia has an underworldly essence. The Italian mafia is known for being involved with construction companies and known for building hidden underground bunkers and tunnels. We actually read that earlier in yesterday's broadcast, where Trump's concrete companies were building underground secret tunnels to get into the building so they can steal from the people who are renting it out. Fun. Isn't that clever? The De Cavalcanti crime family have infiltrated the New York and New Jersey Port Authority and are involved with a large-scale criminal trafficking network. Frank Rizzo, De Cavalcanti Jr. lives around Florida and oversees the New Jersey operations. There needs to be a major investigation into the New Jersey Port Authority. The Aldobrandini family hold the title of Duke of Brindisi in Apulia, and they are part owners of the Sacra Corona Unita, or Apulian Mafia. Willie Moretti was a Jersey mobster and from Apulia. Some Italians, including mobsters from San Nicandro, Apulia, converted to Judaism and moved to Israel. The Abtubal Mafia in Israel, headed up by Asi Abutbal, is likely connected with the Apulian Mafia. Now, Cinzio Aldobrandini was a Roman Catholic cardinal, and there is the Reaper of Death statue with a sickle at his tomb at San Pietro in Vincoli, along with the Aldobrandini coat of arms and the displays their sinister nature. I believe this family manages the catacombs of Rome and the interconnected underground tunnels. Princess Olympia Aldobrandini is married to Baron David René de Rothschild, who is the head of the French Rothschild family and currently the head of N.M. Rothschild and Sons today. In Judaism, the Jewish lineage is passed down from the mother, so it should be a Roman Catholic Rothschild Aldobrandini that inherits the Rothschild Bank or a portion of its ownership. Alexandre Guy Francesco de Rothschild is an Aldobrandini by blood. The French Rothschild family are court factors, serving the Roman curia and black nobility. Whew. The Rothschilds family are subtly titled guardians of the papal treasure in the Jewish encyclopedia. They guard the black nobility's wealth as middlemen, money handlers. The Brandolini family are a Venetian branch of the Aldobrandini clan. Marie Brandolini was the daughter of Beatrice de Rothschilds, and she married Count Brandolini di Adda. Count Brandini di Adda. The second is the head of this family. The House of Aldobrandini also merged a family branch with the Borghese banking family of Rome under Prince Paolo Borghese, and this branch intermarried with the House of Bonaparte. Camillo Borghese, or Pope Paul V, created the Bank of the Holy Spirit in 1605, and the bank eventually merged into Unicredit, the Bank of the Holy Spirit. Wow. Bank of the Holy Spirit. Jesus, didn't he kick out the money changers? And here's this bank's like, we're going to make a Bank of the Holy Spirit. And we'll sell it and call it something credit. Unicredit. The Aldobrandinis merged a branch of the Banchieri family, which are Italian bankers, and their name means bankers. Banchieri, the banker family. They are a concealed family, and they oversee international bankers like the Rothschilds. The Aldobrandinis recently married with Antinori family of Florence, with Prince Piero Antinori as the current head. The Aldobrandinis also married with the Saluzzo family. The Aldobrandini crime family are involved with pedophilia, defilement and desecration, satanic ritual abuse, human sacrifice, murder, conspiring against foreign governments, and terrorism. Oh, that's all? Members of the House of Aldobrandini include Prince Camillo Aldobrandini, Don Clemente Aldobrandini, Princess Olympia Aldobrandini Rothschild, and Prince Camillo's brothers, who lives at the Palazzo Antinori di Brindisi of Florence and holds the title of Duke of Brindisi. The Aldobrandini family are an extremely idiotic, evil, and creepy bloodline, and they oversee the cult of Hades, which is the murderous and cannibalistic cult of pedophiles. The Aldobrandinis are involved with the Vatican and banking and are currently married with the French Rothschild family. They are also top managers of the Jesuits, and they are architects of serial killers. They are also married with the Antinori family of Florence and have inherited a villa in Florence and ducal titles in Apulia. Marchese Piero Antinori is the current head of this family. The Aldobrandinis produced one pope and several cardinals for the Roman Catholic Church. The name Aldobrandini derives from the Arabic word Aldebaran, which means follower, which we've already talked about. And the Aldobrandini clan came into Europe during the Moorish invasion, and we already talked about that too. Now, the Aldobrandinis follow after Massimos and have intermarried with the Massimo Lancelotti branch. The Massimos Vatican came first to the Jesuits, followed after, just as Aldebaran means the follower. The black nobility uses its Jesuit universities to recruit Roman spies, as we said already, blah, blah, blah. All right. The heads of the Aldobrandinis are Prince Francesco Aldobrandini, the Duke of Brindisi in Apulia, and he resides in the Palazzo Antinori in Florence, along with his half-brother, Prince Giovanni Ferdinando Amerigo Aldobrandini. Prince Camillo and his son, Prince Clement, are also high-level members. Amerigo is where America got its name. Amerigo, huh? Sylvester Stallone's family is from Apulia, and he can be seen shaking hands with David Meyer de Rothschild. The Stallones are members of the Apulian Mafia. Wow. The Apulian Mafia are thousands of members operating in New Jersey. The actors on the show Jersey Shore are all connected with mafia clans. The Vatican has also covertly made Sylvester Stallone the ceremonial leader of their Order of St. Sylvester and Vicar of Atlas. Atlas refers to Atlantis as well as Atlantic, like Atlantic City. The Aldobrandinis are part owners of the Apulian Mafia, also called the Sacra Corona Unita, which have an operation in New Jersey. The Savoy Aostas, which are the Dukes of Apulia, are also part owners of the Apulian Mafia. New Jersey is a mafia headquarters for human trafficking. They have deeply infiltrated the New York and New Jersey Port Authority. The Aldobrandinis have a portion of ownership over the Cavalcante crime family of New Jersey, with Simone Rizzo de Cavalcante Jr., who resides in Naples, Florida. The de Cavalcantes have a faction in Florida. The de Cavalcantes are involved in all forms of organized crime, including waste management, with one of its founders was nicknamed Sam the Plumber. The mafia disposes of bodies and body parts in landfills and sewage plants. The Italian mafia often hires criminal bikers for their hits, especially when the hit is a non-Italian or not connected to the mafia. The extremely depraved rapper RZA took his rap from Simone Rizzo de Cavalcante, and he is an agent of the de Cavalcante and Aldobrandinis. RZA's brother is a rapper named Ninth Prince. RZA lives in New Jersey and is a boss of the AVLN and 5%er Islamic supremacist group, and he provides a defense for the human trafficking ring in New Jersey. Wonderful. That are all involved in human trafficking. RZA sent some goons to some dude's house one time to try to intimidate the person writing this. De Cavalcante, Caval means a cave. Cavalcante, like cave, Cante. Hades means the underworld and deep underground caverns. Jesuits are involved in sacrificing people, including children, as they often do this in caverns. Cincio Aldobrandini was a Roman Catholic cardinal, and there is the Reaper of Death statue, which we've already talked about. The Aldobrandini still own their old villa in Frascati, which looks really creepy. Around their villa, they have creepy statues of Poseidon, Pan, and Atlas. Members of the cult of Hades include the child-murdering pedophile actor Johnny Depp, who was in the movie The Ninth Gate, which refers to Pluto or Hades, the ninth planet. Roman Polanski produced the movie The Ninth Gate, and he is a convicted pedophile who raped and drugged a young girl. Johnny Depp publicly supported the West Memphis 3, which was 3 older teens that murdered 3 young boys, and Johnny Depp has a major supporter of these murderers. Has been a supporter. Johnny Depp is also close friends with Marilyn Manson, who is a priest of the Church of Satan and followers of Aleister Crowley. Johnny Depp has done dozens of kids and family movies and is friends with satanic priests and supports 3 convicted child murderers. The wrestler Roman Reigns takes his name from Rome, and he is a ruthless and murderous agent of the Aldobrandinis. Roman Reigns, or Joe Anoa'i, is a cannibalistic monster. The Aldobrandinis have married with the Italian Branchieri family, which are an old Italian banking family, and their name means bankers. Yeah, we said about that. It is possible the Rothschilds have a relationship to the Branchieris. Paul Sarlo is a state senator and businessman in New Jersey, and he is a covert associate of the de Cavalcante crime syndicate and an agent of the Aldobrandinis. Sarlo, who works in the construction industry as chief operating officer of Joseph Sanzari, Inc., the mafia specializes in construction rockets and build covert underground facilities and bunkers used for sex trafficking of women and children and human sacrifice. Joseph Sanzari is the CEO of his company and a high-level gangster. The Aldobrandinis had stocks seized by the United States government in the 40s and 50s through the Trading with the Enemy Act, likely for working with the Italian fascists. Princess Olympia Aldobrandini is married to Baron David René de Rothschild, which we've already talked about, and the head of the French Rothschild family. Judaism. The Jewish lineage is passed down from the mother, which we've already talked about. And Prince Camillo Aldobrandini is friends with Antonio Purini, and Purini can be seen associated with Cornelius Brandy, the executive chairman of CMS and senior partner of CMS Germany, which is an international law firm headquartered in Switzerland that assists in tax evasion. Brandy, like Aldo Brandini. Yeah. The Rothschilds have also married with the Brandolini Diada family in Venice. Brandolini, like Aldo Brandini, the Aldobrandini also merged a family branch with the Borghese banking family of Rome under Prince Piola Borghese, and his branch intermarried with the House of Bonaparte. The French House of Bonaparte still covertly governs France and are loyal to the black nobility of Rome and Italian royals. Prince Camillo Borghese, or Pope Paul V, created the Bank of the Holy Spirit, which we talked about. Now it's called Unicredit. The Borghese and Aldobrandini families have an alliance, and they have married with the royal family of France and are the top bankers of France and the Rothschilds. The Aldobrandinis are also involved in infiltrating major ports for human trafficking. Rick Cotton is the executive director of the New York and New Jersey Port Authority, and he enables organized crime and child trafficking. The Aldobrandinis crime family are involved with pedophilia, satanic ritual abuse, and we've already said all that. And members of this wicked family include, and we've already said that. So, thus concludes part 3. God, that took forever.
What if I told you the cause of your fatigue is hiding in plain sight? In the 1920s, Standard Oil changed medicine forever. They pushed synthetic petroleum into drugs. Sure, it masked symptoms, but it wrecked our guts. Our good bacteria, the ones fighting off parasites and heavy metals, got wiped out. But hey, here's the good news. We can fix this by going back to nature. Meet Elite Potion, the award-winning detox program that's changing lives. It restores your good bacteria by removing toxic threats like aluminum, strontium, barium, and parasites. Imagine feeling energized and alive again. They said there couldn't be a pill that did it all. We invented it. Visit ElitePotion.com and reclaim your health from synthetic pharmaceuticals. Your body will thank you.
If you're looking for a publication that delivers honest takes and critical insights into the issues of our day, then look no further than The Flame Paper. The Flame Paper is written for the people, by the people, who aren't afraid to challenge a mainstream narrative, be it healthcare, voter fraud, political correctness, or even the one-world government. The Flame is full of timely articles, reports, and expert advice written by freedom-loving, truth-telling experts, journalists, and concerned citizens. To subscribe, go to theflameusa.com.
This concludes the 13 Bloodlines and all the information I can find on all the families. Guys, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you being here. Go to jamescarner.com and sign up for my newsletter. It's the only way I can get a hold of you if I get shut down. All of my TikTok accounts have been shut down. Also, go to elitepotion.com and save your life by detoxing with my parasite and heavy metal detox program. And if you could all just do me a very big favor, can you just love your neighbor? If we all loved our neighbor, this world would be a better place. God bless you. See you tomorrow.